Take it up from there. Hi there.
Thank you so much for moderating this. Rani, is everything okay with you? Yeah, fine, fine, please. Thank you. Everybody's here. Just have to manage just in case the bathroom goes up and down the schedule. Just tell you.
Hello. Please, can everyone get seated now, please? The event is about to commence. Thank you very much. Please get comfortable anywhere, sit. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished partners, and esteemed stakeholders, good morning, everyone. My name is Mina Adobe Okobasi. I am the head of Environment Desk, Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Abuja, Nigeria. So I bring you lots and lots of love from my country, Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming to this occasion. I am also very deeply grateful to the UNDRR for this great opportunity to master this event, this ceremony. You know how it is important to the world. So thank you so much, Sandra. She's been working with me and me up to this point. Thank you so much. And so I welcome everyone to Geneva, Switzerland. Warm welcome to the 2025 World Resilience Recovery Conference, the WRRC. Let me also very especially welcome our virtual attendees. As you know, this conference is also streamed live virtually. Thank you all. Today, indeed, is a very auspicious day for the International Recovery Platform and its partners. The conference, as you know, is a milestone in advancing discussions towards enhancing readiness for resilience recovery, which is where our theme was coined from. As we speak, a few days ago in my country, Nigeria, a case of a flash flood happened and 151 lives were lost. We also had loss in billions of economic resources. And you can imagine this happening in other parts of the world concurrently. And so that underscores why this world event, this conference, this gathering, this conversation here is extremely and very important. So once again, I want to thank the organizers, the IRP, the UNDRR, for this wonderful and rare occasion and event. To this end, the WRRC encourages commitments and concrete actions that fully align with the overall theme of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction 2025, which is Every Day Counts, Act for Resilience Today. And prior to this conference, over 4,000 experts from over 130 countries engaged in an extensive preparation process towards this very auspicious moment. And of course, the WRRC is organized under the umbrella of the International Recovery Platform, the IRP, steered by IRP members, government representatives, and all regions, DRR partners, and stakeholders. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, without much ado, let me also welcome right away and introduce to you our distinguished panelists for today. Mr. Hiroaki Hara, Vice Minister for Policy Coordination, Cabinet Office Japan, IRP Co-Chair. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on board. Thank you. Of course, Her Excellency, Ms. W.K. Motale Nalumango, MP Vice President, Zambia. Your Excellency, thank you for coming. Mr. Kamal Kishore is a known name, Assistant Secretary General, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction and Head of UNDRR. Thank you, sir, for being here. So, as first speaker, I am pleased to welcome one of the great DRR advocates and Vice Minister for Policy Coordination, Cabinet Office, Japan, and RRP co-chair, Mr. Hiroaki Hira, to please address this gathering. Thank you.
Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to deliver a warm greeting to all of you on occasion of the opening of World Resilience Recovery Conference. It has a significant meaning for us to kick off the 8th session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction with this event, aiming at promoting resilient recovery from disaster around the world. Representing Japan, the co-chair of International Recovery Platform, I would express my heartfelt gratitude to the IRP members and other partners for their efforts in preparing for this conference. This year, Japan marks 30 years anniversary of the great Hanshin Awaji earthquake in 1995. This extremely strong earthquake caused grave damages and losses in Kobe City, with prolonged impact on local economy and society. The recovery from this earthquake generated the initial concept of Build Back Better for a disaster-resilient society. Since then, Japan has experienced several more mega earthquakes on top of frequent floods and sediment disasters caused by typhoons and other climatic phenomena every year. Each recovery phase has been a chance of building resilient society by constructing resilient infrastructure as well as revising legal instruments, reforming DRR operational agencies, brushing up educational tools, and so on. The significance of Build Back Better felt through these experiences has been put forward in the activities of IRP and reflected in the Priority Action 4 of the Sendai Framework, paving the way for international cooperation and solidarity in this area. In recent years, especially under the effect of climate change, many countries face constant challenges of recovery tasks and preparation for disaster in growing frequency. This leads to our pressing needs for effective advance preparation for resilient recovery, with a view to connecting it with disaster mitigation. This is why today's conference will set an important milestone by focusing particularly on strengthening recovery readiness at national and local levels. Last year, the Asian and Pacific countries gathered to launch a call to action to build back better by investing in recovery readiness. Today, I was much look forward to an outcome of calling for global efforts and commitment for further cooperation among all of us. We will be delighted to follow this conference further by IRP's special forum of high-level policy dialogue on resilient recovery in September in Kobe City, as a part of the side event series of Osaka Expo 2025. We look forward to your continuing participation in this important discussion at the special forum in order to catalyze implementation of the priority actions set out today and accelerate cooperation in knowledge exchange, peer learning, and technical supports. Through this conference and activities of IRP, as well as other international, regional, and bilateral cooperation frameworks, Japan will keep itself committed to international cooperation aiming for disaster-resilient societies using its expertise and lessons. I wish for a fruitful exchange in this conference and a wonderful day for all of you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Hiroaki, Vice Minister for Policy Coordination, Cabinet Office, Japan, and WRRP co-chair. Indeed, we will be looking forward to escalating the knowledge, as you just said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to also hear from a great woman of substance, Her Excellency W.K. Motale Nalumango, Vice President of Zambia. Ma'am, would you prefer to come here? Thank you. Thank you. Choose to stand. It's better. Thank you.
Thank you. I choose to stand to address you, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me today to be part of this important meeting to deliver remarks at the opening session of the World Resilient Recovery Conference. Allow me to convey fraternal greetings from His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia and the people of Zambia. I also extend our deep appreciation to the government of Switzerland, the International Recovery Platform, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, and all supporting partners for convening this important global gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is taking place at a critical moment when we are experiencing more frequent, more intense, and more complex disasters, particularly those driven by climate change. We are now facing a situation when we are struck by a new disaster while recovery efforts are still ongoing. This erodes coping capacities of affected communities and significantly undermines their resilience. This also causes an even stronger negative impact on our socio-economic systems. We face a multi-hazard risk environment marked by recurrent droughts, floods, climate-induced crop failures, and outbreaks of both human and animal diseases. These hazards rarely occur in isolation. They compound each other and affect the livelihood of many people. Ladies and gentlemen, for Zambia, I believe, like other countries, these challenges are not abstract. They are reality. In the last 10 years, my country, Zambia, has experienced recurring floods and prolonged dry spells that have severely impacted food production, livelihood disruptions, depleted water resources, and reduced hydroelectric generation, affecting households, businesses, and public services. Floods, in particular, have damaged critical infrastructure such as roads, healthcare, education facilities, and displaced communities in the eastern, western, and southern parts of our country. More recently, the country experienced the worst drought in our history, during the 2023-2024 rainfall season due to the natural occurring climate phenomenon, the El Nino. This drought affected other countries in our region, such as Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Madagascar, Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. Zambia declared this drought a national disaster and emergency. It had devastating consequences on our critical sectors such as agricultural production, water availability, and energy supply. Ladies and gentlemen, an estimated 9.8 million people across 84 districts were affected by the drought, with 6.6 million in need of humanitarian assistance due to crop failures, rising food prices, malnutrition, and depleted food stocks. In response, the government, in collaboration with specialized agencies of the United Nations, international partners, and other stakeholders, have been implementing a comprehensive disaster recovery and resilience building strategy focusing on immediate relief, long-term resilience, and climate adaptation. The key elements of this strategy include water resources management, promotion of climate-smart agriculture, livelihood diversification, social protection, community-based natural resources management, as well as risk monitoring and early warning. I am pleased to indicate that Zambia has established a robust multi-dimensional disaster risk management structure that allows for the participation of both state and non-state actors in disaster risk management. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share a few examples of Zambia's resilient building efforts that are supported by international partners. Number one, our Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment lead the work on protecting critical wetlands, forests, fragile ecosystems that serve as natural buffers against climate shocks. Two, the Ministry of Agriculture is promoting climate-resilient farming through drought-tolerant crop varieties, conservation agriculture, and access to weather-based insurance, as well as early warning advisories for farmers. The government of the Republic of Zambia is also encouraging private sector to come on board in providing weather-based insurance against climate shocks. Number three, Zambia is also investing in early warning systems. In collaboration with key partners such as United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, and the African Union, we have established a national multi-hazard early warning situation room. This aims to improve disaster preparedness and response through enhanced data management for decision-making and information dissemination. 4, promotion of alternative energy sources such as gas, coal briquettes, and solar. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also continued strengthening our institutional coordination frameworks at all levels. And we are focused on ensuring that our national development framework is risk-informed, for sustainable development. Our grassroots resilience programming is being expanded through community-based disaster risk management initiatives. We are investing not only in response systems, but in recovery preparedness, as we understand that the speed and effectiveness of recovery depend on the planning and investment made before a disaster strikes. Our efforts are yielding significant dividends, as witnessed in our recent drought response. Our early recovery programs, such as mini irrigation for smallholder farmers, helped in reducing the food insecurity, and therefore no one died of hunger. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, allow me to make an earnest appeal for technical and financial support in our resilience agenda from the international community. Our efforts are hampered by lack of investment in resilience building. Our experience so far is that many of our partners tend to support provision of immediate humanitarian needs as opposed to recovery and resilience. Zambia stands ready to share our lessons and practices. Zambia also stands ready to learn from your experiences as well at this conference. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you sure will agree with me that the data Her Excellency just reeled out is indeed very alarming, once again underscoring the urgency of resilient recovery. Thank you so much, ma'am. All right, the next speaker is Mr. Kamal Kishore, Assistant Secretary General and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction and Head of UNDRR. Would like to speak here, sir? Thank you.
A very good morning to everyone. The Honorable W.K. Mutale Nahumango, the Vice President of Zambia, the Honorable Hiroaki Hara, the Honorable Vice Minister for Policy Coordination at the Cabinet Office in Japan, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, friends. At the outset, I want to say a little bit about the title of this conference, which is being held on the second preparatory day of the 9th session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. The previous versions of this event were called World Reconstruction Conference, and we gave it a new name, calling it Resilient Recovery Conference. The change in name is not accidental. There is some thought behind it. We want to shift the focus from reconstructing physical assets to ensuring human recovery after disasters. To paint a picture of that, it is not just important to reconstruct schools and houses and hospitals that have been damaged in an earthquake or a cyclone, but it is even more important that children have access to safe learning spaces. Hospitals provide services that they intend to provide to their communities. Infrastructure is built to better standards so that it continues to facilitate livelihoods of communities that it seeks to serve. So we really want to move the focus away a little bit from just the physical assets, the human dimension of recovery, the resilience dimension of recovery. Ensure that what we do after disasters in terms of rebuilding actually facilitates human flourishing. So it is also something which is enshrined in the 4th priority of the Sendai Framework. The Sendai Framework has a specific focus on Build Back Better. This is a language which was discussed a lot when we were negotiating the Sendai framework. But globally, there are three things that I see. One is that while we've been talking about building back better, in most cases, it's really not happening. And I'll come to it in a minute as to why it is not happening. The second is that in many cases, especially when disasters are small and medium scale, actually forget about resilient recovery. Recovery itself is not happening. You know, I have instances of bridges which are partially collapsed or degraded in the absence of a predictable mechanism. It's standing there for months without recovery starting. And the third trend that I see is that many communities around the world are perpetually in a recovery mode. While they haven't recovered from the previous disaster, they have another one which has hit, and they're recovering from the second one. So in some instances, there is perpetual recovery taking place. And why are these challenges taking place? Why are these challenges that we have to confront in recovery? I think one of the principal challenges is that there is a tyranny of rush. All the decision makers, whether they are in the political sphere or in civil service, they are under tremendous pressure to quickly rebuild houses, quickly rebuild bridges, quickly rebuild roads. And in that instance, they end up building sometimes not better, but even worse than what it was before. There are very few examples that I can say are exceptions to this. One example I visited, Honorable Minister is here. I visited Noto Peninsula in Japan last year, and when you look at how housing recovery is happening for older persons, it's truly inspirational, very consultative. It's not about just rebuilding houses, but putting those older people at the center of recovery, consulting with them, looking at what is it that they really want. A rebuilding of roads that have been washed out by the tsunami of 1st January 2024, very thoughtfully done, not reconstructed right away, but a temporary road built while risk assessment is being done for rebuilding it better. Cultural assets, the lacquerware, recovering all of that to ensure that that cultural asset is not lost. I really wish there were more examples like that for thoughtful recovery, where there could be a public policy case where politicians, civil servants could go out to their constituencies and make a case that doing a thoughtful, careful recovery in the long run is going to create better conditions for their flourishing than a speedy recovery. In order for this to happen, in my assessment, there are 5 things that we need to do to be better prepared for launching recovery programs which lead to resilient recovery. The first is that we have to have a clear thinking before a disaster, not when the recovery program is at your doorstep, about what is the kind of institutional arrangement that will serve best. In many countries, they create special purpose vehicles, special institutions to coordinate recovery. In other countries, they use existing line departments to deliver recovery programs. I cannot make a case for one size fits all. It really has to depend on the specific context of different countries. But what is the best way of managing a large-scale, multi-million dollars, sometimes in multiples of hundreds of millions of dollars recovery program? I think that thinking has to be done beforehand. There is enough global experience to codify it, to really have that suite of options available to countries to draw upon. The second is a financing arrangement. For larger programs, we have instances where the international financial institutions step in. But what about small and medium-scale disasters? What is the way of dispersing those resources? What are the standards that we need to apply for different sectors of recovery? I think that discussion on how do we have predictable arrangements for financing recovery needs to be talked about now, not after a disaster has already taken place. The third is about the physical reconstruction. I think a suite of technology options should be explored, codified, cataloged before a disaster occurs. We should not be fiddling with this once a disaster has happened and we are trying to see what will work best, what costs more, what costs less, which is more resilient, which is more sustainable, which is green. It is also, Build Back Better also includes building back greener. So all of that, a suite of technology options needs to be codified, catalogued, studied, with standard arrangements for procurement put in place beforehand. Then you can even do it more swiftly, not just build back better, but build back a bit more swiftly. The fourth point I want to make is that often when we talk about building back better, we think about physical things, but it is also about social and economic things. It is really important that we talk about resilient livelihoods as well. A lot of the times, when a disaster happens, livelihoods are affected, it also represents an opportunity to redefine the livelihood landscape, come up with better options. Sometimes there may be some sectors of, for example, primary sectors of economy, which may no longer be viable, but there are people who are stuck in that. Disaster provides an opportunity to get out of that, diversify livelihood options, explore new options. I think not enough thought is given to that. If somebody has lost a fishing boat and you replace a fishing boat for a fishing boat, is that really building back better in all circumstances? Perhaps not. Maybe the ocean there was overfished and you are basically going back to what was before. Perhaps this should be replaced by maybe seafood processing plants, so that you do value addition rather than, exploiting the ocean more for fish. So I think careful thinking about and imagination about livelihood recovery is very important. And the final point is, which perhaps should be the first point, is communicating with people, communicating with those who are affected, really understanding what is it that disaster-affected people want, what are their aspirations, what are their entitlements according to government policies, where do they go with their grievances, how do you strike a balance between recovery at the level of a household and recovery at the level of community. It's not just enough to rebuild houses. You also have to rebuild community assets. How do we have a mechanism to give voice to communities that are looking for support for building back better? I think this is really important that we get this right. If we do not get this right, in the face of increasing number of disasters, more intense disasters, it has become almost a cliche to say that disasters are becoming more frequent and more intense. I think we have to see what do we do differently. There is discussion for coming up with mechanisms to cover loss and damage occurring from climate-related events. So there is this discussion which is at a higher political level, but what are the building blocks of addressing loss and damage from climate-related disasters at the community level? So in that context, the conversation that we are having this morning is absolutely critical. It is really critical that all countries come up with good mechanisms so that they are ready for launching resilient recovery programs wherever those, whatever be the disaster, whether it's a geophysical disaster or a hydrometeorological disaster, it is really important that we do that. We've been talking about it for more than 20 years. The phrase "Build Back Better" became very popular right after the Indian Ocean tsunami. But we have to ask ourselves, challenge ourselves, whether we have really operationalized that in practice. And if we haven't, why we haven't, and what is it that we are going to do differently, particularly in the remaining 5 years of Sendai Framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative Kishore. Thank you so much for bringing your over 3 decades of experience in disaster risk reduction to bear in all that you do. Incidentally, that speech also wraps up this opening ceremony of the Resilient Recovery Conference. However, everyone will please stay in the room while we'll take, there will be Our plenary starts any moment from now. But please, all participants, to please stay back here in the room. But it's time now for a group photograph, and of course the UNDRR team will escort all the ministers and speakers. The photograph is for the speakers and all the ministers. So the UNDRR team will escort the ministers to the point of the photograph. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.